that, how can I say, intuition has hinted at in many instances, but very often is lost because of our not having, shall we say, a firm understanding or comprehension of language and the loom of languages, dealing with what they call the rune sciences. Just out of curiosity, how many of you saw Science Behind the Time Game? The tape Science Behind the Time Game. Okay, good enough. I was just curious because I was going to maybe do it just a little bit different, whereas if you had any questions in regards to any of the information you saw, first and foremost, I would, like to answer whatever questions that you might have. However, since that is not the case, I will proceed. Well, also what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be discussing a number of topics and subjects and things of that nature and showing the connection between these different things with the language or different languages. For example, in the last, I don't know, let's say 5, 10 years or so, or let me just say this. Question: why is it that whenever you go to the doctor, physician, or hospital, for those of you that do, and even if you don't, those relatives or people that you know, loved ones, etc., why is it that these doctors, physicians, etc., why are they taking 2, 3, 4, and sometimes 5 vials of blood? They never tell you why, nor do most people ask why. However, the reason being is, and I know you're probably wondering, well, what the heck does this have to do with language? It has a lot to do with language, and I'll show you the connection. The reason being is because they've been using it, obviously, for genetic experimentation, largely due to the fact that most melanin-dominant people contain high concentrations or large concentrations of certain plasma proteins, okay, like fibrinogen, of course, which is responsible for the clotting factor, albumin or serum albumin, and gamma globulin, which are responsible for the production of antibodies which ward off or fight off infectious diseases. And what's really interesting is that, again, like I said, they never tell people why, but this blood that they've been using for genetic experimentation has been used largely due to the fact that most of your counterparts, as you may or may not know, are hemophiliacs, all right? Or there's something that's lacking on their file, okay? And this goes back, or all the way back to the term that was used as pilgrims, or why they call themselves pilgrims. All right, there's a science to everything, as you may well know, and or a hidden science. And basically today, we're going to be dealing with, like I said, the molecular biographical sciences of languages, basically dealing with the biology of languages, all right, or dealing with what they call graph or grid analysis of language. I know a lot of it sounds a little abstract or strange or like, well, what is he talking about? Okay, but like I said, we're going to start with, like I said, pilgrim. All right. Why did they call themselves pilgrims? The reason being, like I said, most of them were hemophiliacs and needed blood to arrest their condition or situation, if you will. And so, subsequently, like I said, there was something lacking on the file, which deals with germ file. All right? Now, how is it that grim is also germ? Now, for those of you who have done any kind of research on language, I don't know how to get this back on. Oh. Yeah, okay, very good. Okay. For those of you who've done any research with language, okay, in particular phonetics, that kind of thing, which is very important, certain words and letters are in fact interchangeable. You know, vowels, consonants, what they call vocables, all right, for lack of a better term, all right? And if you're dealing with vowels and consonants, they are, like I said, interchangeable, but the thing is that they never tell you when you're learning a language when they're interchangeable, or just the simple fact that they are, okay? But if you're dealing with your vowels, for example, you have what they say, 5 vowels, and then you have how many consonants? Does anyone know how many consonants, or at least that they say? Just 21? Okay. 22 vowels, somewhere in there, 21, 22, close. And again, like I said, the vowels and letters and consonants are interchangeable. So subsequently, the I becomes the E, all right? The R remains the same. And of course, you bring down the M, which makes it germ, okay? And of course, you have pilgrim. Pill is also file, okay? How is that? Because, again, we're looking at the I, all right, and the H here, okay? Okay, you have the IH, which again is file, and if there was something lacking on the file, that meant that the area for which it was lacking was gray, or something was grim or dismal, okay? So again, we're dealing with, I don't know how much room I have here. Hemophilia, okay? So again, this is where you get your file from, which is PIL, but you don't see it here, okay? But it's in hemophilia because it's dealing with blood. And of course, hem, dealing with blood actually, is also a chemical, right? Or deals with chemical, like hem, ham, cam, all right? And the O, of course, is dealing with the olfactor, all right? The olfactor is something that's lacking on the file, okay? So, and we know that O is considered to be what? The universal or omniversal donor, all right? But you've never heard anybody use the term omniversal, okay? And that is because of the omniversatility of the blood, all right? Which for the most part, most melanin-dominant people carry the O-positive blood. Also, in addition to which, they've never mentioned or never said anything in regards to that particular blood type lending to a cure for most of the current viruses or diseases. The reason being is because of the fact that it doesn't have any antigens, okay? So subsequently, when you are transfusing the blood from the donor to the recipient, okay, there are no, again, antigens. So it doesn't cause any clumping or any agglutination, all right? So again, like I said, the O-positive blood, which most melanin-dominant people carry, just for the record, is now on the black market, though they haven't said anything, okay, and it's being sold to the highest bidder. This is why they call it the blood of the prophets, because certain individuals are in fact profiting off of your blood as we speak, okay? And, which again, you can see the interchangeability of the language, prophet, prophet, okay? Which phonetically are the same, okay? Also, homonyms, okay? Whereas they're spelled different, but they sound the same and have a different meaning. unlike homophones. Homophones are words that are spelled the same but have different meanings and have the same sound. Okay, so like I said, this blood type, like I said, is now on the black market largely because, like I said, of the high concentrations of plasma proteins that most of you carry, which is also, how can I say, you're of the green bloodline, okay, or the royal bloodline. It is no coincidence or accident as to why they call themselves blue bloods, all right, which is supposed to be royalty, that kind of thing, but it is an open admittal to the fact that, again, there's something lacking on the file, okay, or germ file, all right? Were there any questions before I go any further? Okay. Okay, so again, you can see some of the connections with the, like I said, the phonetics and the interchangeability of the vowels and the consonants. Now, to take it a step further, how many of you have recently seen the new series on WB called Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Okay. Well, you've heard about it if you haven't seen it. Okay. Well, okay. This takes you into the area of dealing with blood. Why? Because if you recall, throughout the history of television or movies, etc., you have movies like, you know, Count Dracula, etc., which, of course, Count Dracula was also another term for blood count, all right? And Dracula is also another term for Dracoculus, which is a parasite, okay? And is it not true or a fact that, I mean, even according to how the story goes or how it reads, whether you're reading a book or watching TV or what have you, that this individual feeds off of other people, all right, who basically have blood. Of course, they never get into the fact that it is a particular blood type, all right? In addition to which, this would make this parasite an ectoparasitic or as well as an endoparasitic parasite, okay, that feeds off of this blood to keep itself alive. But how can that be when in fact it is considered to be living dead, all right, or of the living dead? And in addition to which, one of the other reasons as to why he needed the blood was to give it, him or her, physical immortality, okay, or what they call eternal life, that kind of thing, so they could live perpetually. But again, like I said, going back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it was just another way of saying, let me write this down first. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is just another term for laser vein piercing, which is precisely what's going on today, okay? And how is this being done? Okay, because, well, first of all, even before I go any further, when you go back to the Dracula story, what happened? When he or she, the vampire, took the blood from the other individual, or the victim, what did they do? They pierced the vein, did they not? Okay, fine. But now that we're in the age of technology, you don't need to do it that way, all right? In other words, meaning that you don't need a needle, as many of you know, whereas they're using technology, laser, for example, to pierce the vein, okay? So this is basically what laser vein piercing is, but that you can see the connection through the language, okay? Because you have vampire, okay? And if you look at P-I-R-E, is also P-I-E-R, or the interchangeability of the word, okay? Pyre, peer, which is short for, of course, piercing. Then you have vam is also vein, because M and N are interchangeable, okay? And then you have laser. How so? Here it is. L-A-Y-S-E-R. Okay? But you don't need the Y because of the sound. Okay? It's just like, for example, if I were to spell belong, how would you spell belong? Okay, B-E-L-O-N-G. But you don't need the E because the B has the sound itself, or carries the sound itself, which B is also D, which is also T, because they're consonants, so therefore they're interchangeable. But again, nobody ever says anything, okay? And for obvious reasons, because don't want you to know, okay? And so subsequently through the language, your landing is being gauged. All right?